Okay, so I know the book has functions on chapter 4 or 5, but any development shop around the world, like they use functions or they use classes. No one uses just like one page where they write all the code and to create a program, right? So functions, what they do is they help us organize code, and each function is one task. So we have a lot of functions, and each of those functions is handling at least, hopefully, only one task, right? So that's why I introduced functions from the beginning here, because if we get too comfortable writing code in one page, and then by the fifth week, I'm like, we're not going to do that anymore. Then that transition sometimes, in my experience, has been that some students struggle with that. So we're just going to introduce it from the beginning, and then you have a whole semester to understand how to work with functions and classes without writing everything in one page, right? Like the book may show you. So we have a function. So first, like, we'll just understand what a function is. So it's some block, right? We have some Python code here, but usually we have like some input, and that input is in the form of some values. And those values are stored in what we know are variables, but anything that goes into a function is a function parameter. I know, right? But in short, a parameter is a variable, right? But I guess they want to distinguish, so they call them parameters. So we have inputs. The code manipulates that input, right? So and then it returns some output. So in essence, that's what a function is. Like something goes into that black box, data's massaged or whatever, right? And then an output's produced. There are some functions that accept inputs, and then they may only like display the input, right? So this is a function that returns a value, and then we have a function void or non-value return function, right? Value return function. So that's what we're dealing with in this class, right? For right now, we are just interested in getting an understanding of more or less, well, what is a function, right? Like, what do we do with them? So this is what we do with them, right? We may have inputs. We display the input, meaning there's no output display to screen, or maybe send the file to hard drive, send the file over the internet. And then there's others that receive input, they manipulate the input, and then there's some output. That's a return value function. Return value functions are the functions we use to test our code, right? So we will always use functions that return a value in test cases, and we will test them, right? So make sure that we understand that. Let me see here. Sure, I'm not forgetting anything. Let me go here. I talked about that. Okay. Any questions here? So for now, that's all you have to know about functions, right? There's some that accept input. I mean, both accept input, or they may not accept input, right? But one returns a value and one doesn't. That's like the main difference between the two types of functions, okay? Here.
Functions is like a method?
Yeah, it's a method, yes.
Same. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Not sure what the book calls a method, function. It's the same thing, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you may hear it mentioned as a method, right? function, method. In short, it's a piece of code in a block of known as a function that does something for us, for our program. That's what it is. So let me go here. Open my code space. Okay, so while that is coming up, let me go back here. So it's a very high level introduction to functions. When we get to the functions chapter, I think it's chapter 4 or 5, we'll take a deep dive and try to understand how is all this working. But for now, we have void functions, they do not return a value, and value return functions return a value. And we'll use them in unit test, but right now I want to introduce the concept of a variable, right? What is a variable? So let's go here. And so let me wait for that one to come up. What I'll do is I'll create